So Ibn Hisham accepts this tradition as authentic. Tabari accepts this tradition as authentic because he quotes it. So does Qurtubi. So Ibn Hisham, Qurtubi, Tabari, the three among others, all agree that this tradition that I'm about to read is completely authentic. What tradition? Here it is, 6114 from Al-Qurtubi's interpretation. It was said that this verse, what verse? The one we read, 6114.
Yeah.
Was revealed about the apostles of Jesus. And Ibn Ishaq stated that of the apostles, Hawariyun, those who were companions of Jesus, and disciples, who may not have been companions of Jesus, but the followers of the apostles, Jesus sent to preach.
Oh, yeah.
Who were they, guys? There were Peter and Paul, who went to Rome. So who was one of the disciples that Jesus sent? Paul with Peter to Rome. So again, these are the Muslim sources. This is not me. There is a story in the Quran, chapter 36, verses 13 to 29. 36, verses 13 to 29. Okay, so notice, here it's saying, Allah sent 3 messengers, 2 at first and a 3rd to support them. And the word envoys means messengers.
Yeah.
It doesn't tell us who the messengers are and what city they were sent to. So according to the Muslim sources, the messengers were the disciples of Jesus. And I'm going to read it. And according to the Muslim sources, those messengers were Simon Peter, John the Apostle, and Paul. Tafsir al-Jalalain. And strike for them a similitude, right? The inhabitants of the town, and he says Antioch. So it's Antioch, Syria. When the messengers, namely Jesus's disciples, came to it. So here you have the Muslim scholars admitting these messengers are the disciples of Jesus.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah. Christian apologists and missionary is trying so hard to lie about the Holy Quran to impose Paul on Muslims. All they have done is a distortion for the Islamic interpretation of the Holy Quran, like interpretation of Al-Jalalain and Al-Qurtubi, and they build their argument based on their distortion. Sam Shamoun quote 2 verses from the Holy Quran to impose Paul on us. He quote Surah As-Saf, chapter 61, verse 14, which says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا أنصار الله كما قال عيسى ابن مريم للحواريين من أنصاري إلى الله قال الحواريون نحن أنصار الله فآمنت طائفة من بني إسرائيل وكفرت طائفة فأيدنا الذين آمنوا على عدوهم فأصبحوا ظاهرين. He quote also chapter 36, Surah Yasin, verse 13, 14, all the way to verse 19, which start by saying واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم 2 فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون. صدق الله العظيم. Now, according to the Islamic interpretation and Islamic sources of the Holy Quran, the interpretation by Al-Qurtubi, he said Paul was sent by Christ as the 3rd messenger to the village of Antakya because they rejected the first 2 messengers that he sent them. So therefore he sent the 3rd one, and his name was Paul. That's according to Islam. But according to Christianity and Christian faith, the village of Antakya was one of the first villages that have accepted Christ and his message. According to Islamic interpretation, says during the time of Christ on earth, Christ sent one of his companions by the name of Paul to Antakya because they rejected him. But in Christianity, during the time of Christ on earth, Paul was one of the enemies of Christ. So how could Christ send one of his enemies to the village of Antakya? Paul, for the Christian, came long time after Christ being raised up to heaven, but not during the time of Christ on earth, and he claimed to be Christian, which contradicts Christians' faith. So how can Christ send Paul, and Paul was his enemy, and he came long time after Christ was raised up to heaven? Having the name Paul in the Islamic interpretation of the Holy Quran does not mean that he is the same person. if you consider him to be the same person, that contradicts Christianity. Because according to Al-Jalalain that you quote as well, he said that Jesus sent his disciple during his time on earth. And according to Christianity, Paul was not even one of the disciples of Jesus during his time on earth. And those are the names of the disciples of Jesus Christ, the 12 disciples. You cannot find even the name of Paul among them. So when you claim that he was sent by Christ during the life of Christ on earth, that contradicts your teachings. Because first, he was an enemy of Christ during his time on earth, and no one of his disciples was named as Paul. The Bible has the same thing. You have the name John. You have John the Baptist. And you have John, son of Zebedee. And you can read this, Matthew chapter 3, verse 1, about John the Baptist. And you can read 6 or 7 times about John, son of Zebedee. So they both have the same John, the same name. So they are different persons with the same name. So when we say that Paul was sent by Jesus, Isa alayhi salam, so it is not necessary to be the same Paul that you want to impose on us as Muslims in the Holy Quran or in the Islamic interpretation. Let me tell you what Al-Qurtubi says about Paul that you believe in the Bible. You quote Al-Qurtubi. If you read chapter 4, verse 171, when you read the interpretation of Al-Imam Al-Qurtubi, he says, according to Paul, Paul said, if the truth is with Jesus, then we have disbelieved and denied him. And our destiny is to the fire, and I will continue to deceive them and his companion and mislead them, and they will enter hellfire with us. So that was the mission of this Paul that you are talking about in Christianity, according to Imam Al-Qurtubi, whom you quote in your speech to support your false claim. I hope that this answers your misconception. Once again, Mr. Shamoun, and to all Christian missionary and apologists, if you want to learn about Islam, please learn about Islam from the Islamic sources according to Muslims. And when you look into the Islamic sources, read them in an Islamic context, not a Christian context. So all you have done here is a distortion just to suit you and to fit your needs as a Christian missionary, to impose your Paul on Muslims like you impose your Jesus and Trinity on the Jewish Tanakh. I hope that this is your answer. Thank you very much. God bless you all. Peace be with all of you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.